If you like taking photos, don't do what he did. Once 4 boys drove to a tunnel to take photos at night, but this quickly took a horrifying turn. Once they arrived, they got out of the car and took a self-timer photo by the tunnel. But when they got back in the car, the boy sitting in the driver's seat didn't turn on the ignition. Instead, he asked, "You guys would never leave me, right?" The other boys were confused. "Of course not, why would you ask that?" Then he said, "Look at my feet." The other boys started screaming. Coming through the floor of the car were 2 white hands with long fingernails, and it was grabbing the ankles of their friend in the driver's seat. The 3 boys opened the car doors and ran. After a while, they walked back up to the car to check on their friend. That's when they saw the headlights were still on, but the car was completely empty. The boy in the driver's seat was never seen again. Can you solve this mystery? This is a story of 3 girls who heard a rumor about a tunnel being haunted. They didn't believe it, so they went inside, but something terrifying happened that made them question reality. Can you figure out the truth here? All the clues to what really happened are hidden in what I'm about to say. So these 3 girls went into the tunnel that was rumored to be haunted by the ghost of a girl who died there. Her case remained unsolved and no body was ever found. This intrigued the 3 girls, so they decided to pay the tunnel a visit. When they first looked into the tunnel, it was pitch black. This scared them, but they decided that they wouldn't believe the ghost stories they heard and went in anyways. One of the girls even had an idea. She said, "Let's just run through the entire tunnel as fast as we can." But none of them expected what would happen next. The 3 girls ran and ran into the dark tunnel and didn't stop until they reached the other side. Then one of the girls said, "I told you the stories weren't true. There are no ghosts here." The second girl said, "Yeah, holding hands definitely made it less scary. I'm glad I was in the middle." "Me too," said the third. What really happened here? Can you solve this mystery?
It is time for another makeup of the day. So to start off with, I use the e.l.f. Cookies and Dreams primer. I've been using this a lot and I love the way it makes my skin feel. I use the Studio London Flaunt Flawless foundation with the Juvia's Place concealer. For my bronzer, I use the MUA bronzer in the shade Solar. It's such a nice shade. Then for my blush, I mixed 2 different ones. This is the Beauty Bay Face palette and I mixed this shade with this shade. For highlight, it had to be P. Louise. I'm obsessed with this palette at the moment, so I use that. For my eyes, went in with Glisten Cosmetics. I started off with this shade here, which is called Waves. Then we went in with this one here, which is called Grapevine, and then Pepper. Then I also used this shimmer, which is from the Beauty Bay Jade palette. For my lashes, I use the Kylash by Kylie. I absolutely love this mascara. Then finally, for my lips, I went in with this one here, which is Revolution Pro in the shade Bare Mannequin. How beautiful is this highlight? I want to show you what it is. So this is the highlight from Beauty Bay Face palette and I'm obsessed with this palette. I actually use the bronzer from its day too. I'm going to use it on this side. So it's called Precious. It's a highlight. You need like the tiniest amount of product to make it work. And it just blends out effortlessly onto the skin. Like look at that. Literally tiniest amount of product blends out so beautifully. I'm obsessed with it.
When I was in 4th grade, I started becoming friends with this girl, Maddie. She was the coolest girl in the grade. Everyone loved her. She wasn't a mean, popular girl, though. She was really nice. One day, Maddie invited me over for a sleepover, and I, of course, said yes. So I'm at Maddie's house. We're having a great time. But one thing I didn't tell Maddie is that I'm slightly lactose intolerant, and her dad made 3-cheese macaroni that night for dinner. But I was too nervous to say anything, so I ate the entire bowl. And then we started watching a movie, and I'm really not feeling good. So I go to the bathroom, and I take a huge shit. But for some reason, the toilet isn't flushing. It's not clogged, but you just can't flush. So I panic. I look through her bathroom cabinets and I find Ziploc bags. I reach into the toilet and I take my shit out and I put it in the Ziploc bag and then I throw it out the window. A few weeks later in school, Maddie tells me that her mom is worried they have a peeping Tom coming to their house trying to scare them. Her mom called the police and asked them to keep an eye on her street. And when I asked Maddie why her mom thought that, she said, "Well, it's pretty gross, but he pooped in a Ziploc bag and threw it at her rose bushes." Maddie said my mom's really upset because the rose bushes are where my mom put my grandma's ashes. I was like, oh yeah, that's super scary. Hopefully they find the guy who did that. And hopefully Maddie never.
Was this a case of badly behaved children or something else? One morning, I was with my mum in the bathroom of our house while she was getting ready. She was acting a little distant, so I asked her if everything was okay, and she told me about something that had happened the night before. At about 2 a.m, she had been woken up by a strange noise, so she got up and went to see where it was coming from. It seemed to be coming from the bathroom, and as she walked in, she saw a hairdryer plugged in and turned on in the middle of the floor. She thought it was strange, but that it was probably just one of the kids, and went back to bed. About an hour later, she was woken up again by the same sound, but this time when she went to check, it was coming from downstairs. Once again, the hairdryer was in the middle of the floor, but this time in the downstairs bathroom. As she's telling me this story, I turn to look at the closet in her bathroom, and as I do, the entire light bulb smashes into pieces.
This man thought he got away with something terrible he did as a kid, but he was wrong. Once there was a rich businessman, let's just call him Derek. Derek was walking home from work when a boy ran up to him and started pulling on his suit. He said, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek shouted, "Leave me alone," and walked away. The boy was left outside freezing in the cold. The next day, the same boy was standing on the street and said, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek was annoyed. He threw a penny at him and said, "Here, there you go, now leave me alone." But he could have never known who this boy actually was. This time, when he got home, he started feeling uneasy. Something about these interactions felt a bit weird to him. He went to bed, tried to fall asleep, but as soon as he closed his eyes, he heard a voice right up against his ear say, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek jumped out of bed. His wife told him to calm down, so he tried to. There was no one else in the room, but something was wrong. Derek began to remember what he did. When he was a young boy, him and his friends had done something horrible. Terrified, he went up to the attic and found his old yearbook. Then, flipping through the pages, he saw a photo. Derek thought, how was this possible? He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Follow for part 2. This man thought he got away with something terrible he did as a kid, but he was wrong. After Derek ignored the boy in the street asking him for 1 penny, he went home. But he always felt a bit strange about their interactions. Then he went into the attic and found his old yearbook. While flipping through, he found a photo that would haunt him forever. When he was younger, him and his friends were bullies, and they had done something unspeakable to a boy. After beating him, Derek and his friends threw him in the river without a second thought. The boy never showed up to class the next day, but Derek and his friends assumed that he moved away. How was it possible that the boy Derek bullied years ago was the same boy asking him for a penny in the street now? Even though Derek grew up to be a successful businessman, he held the yearbook in his hands, horrified at how his past had come back to haunt him. Within the next few days, Derek took out his life savings. He brought the bag of money out to the boy and said, "Here's every penny I have. Now please leave me alone." But the ghost boy just looked at him blankly. Then, in an instant, his face turned into a terrifying smile. He said, "No, mister, that's not all," as the ghost boy reached into Derek's chest and pulled out his heart.
Makeup of the day. So I'm going to show you what made up my full face of makeup today. To start off with, I use the Estee Lauder primer. Then for my foundation, I use the e.l.f. Halo Glow. This one I've been using all the time recently. Then for my concealer, I went in with the Rimmel. This one is actually really good. For my bronzer, I've been using a new favourite of mine, which is the Studio London Bronzing Drops. These are incredible. Then when it comes down to my blush, I used Morphe, and it's the Pop Up Blush palette, and I used this shade in the middle. Then for my highlight, I used Real Love by Revolution, the Euphoric highlight. I just love the shade of this and the shapes it made out of them. For my liner, I used 3 different ones, all by Glisten Cosmetics. We used Grapevine, Pepper, and then Blue Sky. On my lashes, I use the Colourpop Act Natural Defining Mascara. Then finally, on my lip, went in with a Bourjois liquid lipstick. It is the perfect shade for my lip.
This is why I don't tell anyone where I live. There was once a boy who asked his single father for a bedtime story, so the father told him. There was once a boy named Colby who made friends with another boy online called 𝙎𝙪𝙗𝙧𝙚. On Colby's birthday, 𝙎𝙪𝙗𝙧𝙚 wanted to give him a present in real life, so Colby gave him his home address, where he lives with his mom, his dad, and his little brother. But then Colby started to feel a bit weird about giving his address to a stranger online. The next night, he thought he had to tell his parents about it. He called out to his dad but got no reply, then found both his parents killed and a man wearing a dark hoodie holding a knife in the hallway. As Colby started to beg for his life, he hears his little brother crying in the next room. The intruder then strangles Colby and leaves the house with Colby's baby brother. The boy then looks up at his father and asks, "Why did the intruder take the baby?" To which his father just calmly smiled and said, "I've always wanted to be a father." What would you do if someone said this to you? Once there was a girl in Korea who got in an elevator in the apartment building that she was living in when a stranger came in and told her something that was absolutely terrifying. This stranger came into the elevator with her and tried to make some small talk. He looked at the elevator buttons and said, "Oh, I see that you live on the 14th floor. I live on the 13th floor." She gave him a friendly response and even tried to flirt a little bit. She thought that he was attractive and wondered if they would get to know each other better. But things quickly took a horrifying turn. When the elevator arrived at the 13th floor, the man got off and said, "See you soon." But as the doors closed, he pulled out a knife from his jacket and with a terrifying smile said, "Upstairs." Then he ran towards the stairs. By this time, it was too late. The elevator doors were already closed. She tried to push as many buttons as possible, but it was of no use. She was stuck inside the elevator, unable to do anything, as the elevator made its way up to the 14th floor.
Makeup of the day. I'm going to show you everything that's made my full face makeup today. So we started off with the primer, and I use the Real Love by Revolution Hydrating Primer. Makes my skin feel really... Have you tried the Mega Lashes mascara yet? Because if you haven't, you are missing out. Firstly, look at how beautiful this packaging is, and the wand is just incredible. It looks so nice, and you can also twist this for like better angles like this. I'll show you on my eyes. So I like to have it twisted, but not too much, just so we can really get in there. I'm just going to do one really quick cut. Look at the differences that has made already in literally 10 seconds for one really light cut. I love it.
When I was 17, my family actually forgot about my birthday, so when I told my best friend, she felt really bad for me and convinced her family to do something with me. So they took me out to eat at a restaurant where they throw like bread rolls at you, and they told the waitress that it was my birthday. So the waitress asked me to stand up, and I was like, no, but everyone kept staring at me, and my best friend was like, just stand up. So I stood up, and the waitress announced to everyone in the room that it was my birthday, and she asked everyone to sing happy birthday with her, but absolutely nobody sang, so it was quiet. So I slowly sit back down on my chair, and I look over to my friend, and she's just laughing because this is hilarious to her. And then I look over at the waitress, and she looks scared, and she starts giving me a bunch of extra bread rolls, and she's like, I am so sorry. Needless to say, it was very awkward, and a birthday that I will never forget.
This foundation is under £10, and I want to show you the difference it makes to my skin. So I'm just blending it out, and it just blends beautifully onto my skin. It makes my skin look so flawless, and it is so easy to work with. So this is how it's looking now. We've nearly finished to blend this in. It's really balanced my skin out. It is blended in gorgeously, and it just makes my skin look so healthy. So now it's time to show you what it is. This is by Studio London. It's the Flaunt Flawless foundation, and I'm obsessed.
Story time. I babysat a lot of kids in my neighborhood, and there was this one night that I was babysitting a 2-year-old. It was around 10 o'clock at night, so the kid was sleeping, and I was just sitting in the living room. In the living room, there was a big TV, a couch, and then behind me, it was a wall with a giant window. So it was really late at night, I had nothing to do, so I was Snapchatting my friends. If you Snapchat anybody, I'm sure you know that sometimes you Snapchat really fast. You don't even know or look at what you're sending. I was mass snapping all my friends, and then one of them replied 10 minutes later. And he said, "Who's that guy behind you?" And I turned around and no one was there, so I'm like, he's playing a joke on me. But then I get another Snapchat from this friend I had, and she lives all the way across the country. They don't know each other. And she said, "I think there's someone outside." So I was really freaked out because I was alone. There was a giant window behind me. Apparently there was someone outside. I wasn't gonna call the child's parents because I didn't want to freak them out, but I was scared. So then I went around the house, locked all of the doors. Sorry, it's a really long story, like for part 2.